Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Lighthouse Sessions. Today, I'm excited. I have my friend Tamara Pflug with me. Tamara, welcome to the show. Let's jump right in. And why don't you introduce yourself to my audience, please?
Thank you so much, Jeff, for having me. And I'm glad to be here. I'm excited. And I loved everything you're doing. The title is amazing. So I'm glad to be here. So yes, about me. So I'm originally from Geneva, Switzerland. And I used to be a teacher, which I guess I still am because I have the diploma still. I loved it. But that being said, I felt like something was missing, some personal development in the curriculum. So I learned life coaching back then. And I realized this could be a job. I cannot believe you can call yourself a life coach. And so I've decided to slowly leave the school system as much as I liked it. The kids are, very simple, very authentic. But then I became a life coach. And now, no matter what I coached on, time management, dating was really fun. I realized that it was really coming down to confidence, give ourselves permission to what we can, believe about ourselves, that we are worthy, that we are good enough, no matter what we do, no matter what we achieve. So I became a fun and confidence genie, because why not,
Why not? And I love the, when I've been going through my LinkedIn connections and I'm like, okay, fun, nope. And when I saw your profile, I was like, I need to talk to Tamara. So thank you for being on the show. Let's talk about confidence. And I love your tagline, you're not broken, just stuck. And honestly, that's the world I live in. I live in a world with a bunch of people who are stuck and they know they're stuck and they've just discovered they're not broken. So I think you and I are going to talk a lot about getting unstuck.
Yes. And I love this topic because I think it's the idea really of the, I heard it so much from clients or, on a consult call, I feel stuck, something must be wrong with me. So I thought like, this is very talking to people. I want, to tell them like, I see you, I understand you, and nothing's wrong with you. I think so. Yeah, I'm happy it resonated with you and you can see it happening, unfortunately, around you. But I believe that we have to be somewhere. So I'm going to,
Absolutely. Now, it's fascinating to me when I talk to entrepreneurs. The hardest question to answer is, what do you do? Because it's like, well, I did this and then I did this. And from there, I learned to do this. I got to be honest, I've met a lot of life coaches who need a life coach. You don't strike me as one of those. So what was that process like? And by the way, I think once a teacher, always a teacher. You will teach for the end of your days. And I think being a life coach, you probably bring more than teaching in there than you imagine. How did you become a life coach?
It's true that the way to explain it or to make it, I think for kids, just to make it more playful, this is what I'm trying to bring. It's funny you're saying this and about LinkedIn, because I always said myself, people are taking it so seriously, and at the same time, I struggle myself, which you pointed it right. I don't have a coach today, but I used to have one just to be a product of my product. I think it's just easier to sell when you came through something like yourself. So yeah, but what I wanted to say by this is that it's true that I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. As you can see, it happened to the best of us entrepreneurs. But your question, so I think I was a teacher, and when I learned life coaching, I was 24, and I said to myself, I'm just too young to coach. Who has the wisdom at 24 years old, which is a limiting belief, in itself, So, but I'm happy we are where we are. But what is funny, and it's of course, I think in the topic of your podcast, is that I remember going out of school and realizing really that personal development is missing in the curriculum. And my boyfriend back then, called me and told me, you're not going to believe what we're going to do. We're going to sell on Amazon. Because actually, back then, we always wished to travel and work from everywhere. But, everybody around us still today is not doing it. So we said it's maybe not possible, but we just, set the intention. So we started selling on Amazon. First, I sold some shoes because I started traveling and I saw I did not need them. No, we started on eBay. And then we sold on Amazon. We had our own kitchen gadget products, which is funny because we don't like to cook. a garlic press, which now makes us crazy about garlic and putting 15 cloves in every dish. So to answer a question, and then I left school. Actually, I lied a bit before because I left school while we were selling on Amazon and we were going to sell this business, our own brand. So to tell you what I think I'm looking at from the outside a bit of all of this entrepreneur journey, that yeah, I was a teacher, so I think I brought a bit of this to, sell online on Amazon, which I have no knowledge whatsoever about marketing outside of the fact I used to love buying lots of stuff. So I think this looks good, this is good quality. And then I really decided that life coaching is really like to help, people get unstuck, as we talked about. And confidence, I think I struggle a bit with it back then to get validation and approval, from other people. So this is a bit more as a, why on a soul level. And I think, for everybody that is listening, to really ask ourselves and give ourselves permission to see what is true on a soul level, what we really want to do. It's kind of a nice, different way to look at it, instead of exactly what do you do, as you mentioned. Yeah. What do you say when people ask you, what do you do? I'm curious.
It depends on the day. Okay. More accurately, it depends on the day and the time, because I wear a lot of hats, and I've narrowed it down. I build bridges between people. That is what I do. How I do it varies from day to day. And again, like you, I can say, well, I do podcasting, I do some coaching, I do ghostwriting, I do writing, I create content. And I think I was a teacher in a past life, because I actually went to university, took a first year of teaching, and went, this is not for me. I didn't like all the rules, and but I teach. If I learn something, I literally have to teach someone else immediately. That's how I process. That's how I figure it out. So, but my job is just, I love bringing great people together, and I'm not arrogant enough to know why I need to bring people together, but sometimes the universe nudges me and says, you need to connect this person with that person. And my job is to make it happen. So
I love it. And I think we need, more people to do it spontaneously. Like people also sometimes want to network just to network. But I think when you do it your way, I don't know, it's bringing a bit the fun, and it's I don't know if you agree with this with me, but it's really an anthropological experience, because then you get to meet so many people, so many different people.
Well, here's the thing. As a child, I was the kid that the teachers would say, anybody have any questions? Anybody but Jeff. And,
really?
And they hated it when I would ask why, because I can't do something unless I understand the why. So my hand was always up in class, and the teachers would literally look through me. And, it turns out I was meant to be a podcaster, because I get to ask questions.
It's true. It's so funny, because the first impression that I would have of you is that you have the answers inside of you. I don't know. I think you, for example, the fact that you but that you got guided as being a connector, I feel like you kind of tap into your intuition. I love, everything about, I think it's underrated. So I don't know, I had the feeling that then this is how you just followed your heart to be, as you said, podcaster, but also writing at other times. It feels to me. So it's funny you said that you were the person asking questions. So.
Well, it's funny, because people ask me, I write a lot, and I used to write to help other people. And then I realized I was writing to answer my own questions. So, I did something really strange. I wrote a book. It's got a Latin title that I won't bother pronouncing, but it was basically, the translation is Hunger for Knowledge. And people are like, that's a boring book. Why did you write it? And I said, because I wanted to know historically how humanity acquires knowledge. And to me, acquiring knowledge and not sharing it, it was like, what's the point of that? So that's, I do some very strange things. And, people are like, oh, you're all over the place. And I'm like, yeah, I'm an entrepreneur. It's the stuff you see publicly, tip of the iceberg, because privately I'm, studying success. I'm studying coaching. I'm studying mindset. Now I'm going to ask you a question, because this is kind of my favorite question. And I've learned to stop using my brain and use my heart and my intuition. One of the things that stumbled I stumbled upon by accident, and I think you do this in naturally. I used to think I just needed to learn the skills. Now it's I need to learn. I want to know what the mindset is before I even think about the skills.
Interesting. Can you think of an example or something that it will be just maybe just to make sure I don't answer next to you?
Yeah.
for your question.
So, for example, you talk about getting unstuck. Old Jeff, I would have gone and done the research. I would have defined what unstuck meant. I would have, learned all the methodologies. Now I sit down and I say, why is it important to get unstuck? So I work on the mindset first and the skills follow. Whereas before, I always worked on the skills, hoping the mindset would come.
Interesting. I think even for the way to deal with it, if we can say it's a problem, because I like to say also that it's not a problem, we just do it for fun, like making decision. All of this seems so serious, so I'm trying to bring the lightness even to these processes. But I think that the way to, I'm still thinking at the same time that I'm sorry, your question. But I think it depends. And this is where you can tap into your intuition as to what way you decide that you're going to, do it. I agree that it's a good way to start. Sometimes action leads to clarity. So when you do something, it does bring you an answer to a question. But sometimes even you mentioned the example of stock. I believe that actually it's very simple, not easy, but very simple to do. We feel stuck because of something we're thinking, I believe. And you said you're learning a lot on your free time, or not only free time, but as an entrepreneur. So, I love all it's one of the coaching training that I did about cognitive behavioral therapy, which is, basically that your thoughts create your reality, like what you're thinking is basically, you're creating your result. It's not always that black and white. I think the nervous system is not considered enough. But it is interesting just to see that what we're thinking really creates, I believe, very often the way how I'm feeling. So we think we're stuck, but it just comes from thinking something about our circumstance that it's still neutral. But some people would feel stuck in this circumstance, and somebody would not. So it's just interesting to see it's just because of something we're thinking. So to answer your question, sometimes it is just better, I would say, which is kind of a vague answer for this. But again, I would tap in my intuition saying like, okay, here I need maybe a bit of mindset and, to see if it's just something that I'm thinking that is blocking me. Very often it's true that this is the reason why. But then you can really, action leads to clarity. And I have to say that, you mentioned the book that you've wrote before, like that somebody told you, why did you write a book? And it's funny, the first thought I had in my head was, wow, he wrote a book. So many people just want to write it. As much as it's just a stepping stone in all of your entrepreneurial journey, I find it amazing that you did it. I think the universe really, it's like you have maybe a vision, and I know you talked about this in your podcast description. So I believe that we have the GPS, like plugged in, a bit like what you want to do, but you don't know what road it's going to take you, depending on the traffic. I don't know if it resonates with you, but it's I find it fascinating.
That is the perfect analogy, because once upon a time, and again, when I was all about the skills, I was arrogant enough to think I knew the best path. But the problem is, it's from my perspective where I'm sitting here. Once I start the journey and I find construction, if I'm set on this is the path, I might turn around and come back home. Whereas what normal people do with GPS is you go, oh, the road is blocked, I'm going to go around it. Yeah. And I found, and you and I may end up talking a lot about intuition. Once I started trusting my intuition and saying, here's what I want to achieve, rather than here's how I'm going to achieve it.
Yes.
Because the brain is a fascinating thing. And when I told it, here's how I'm going to achieve it, I would hit roadblocks, get stuck and go, okay, screw it, I'm going home. Whereas now I say, here's what I want to achieve. And I'm a firm believer that it's above my pay grade to know how. And I just sit back and, some people call it God, some people call it the universe. I love GPS because there is a voice that says, go this way.
Yeah. And I have just to say, because, we talk about confidence, and I think entrepreneur, it's the best personal development journey that you can ever do, to face any blocks, any self-unworthy, like everything that you can find, every criticism, it's coming back, because it's us. It's not, as a coach, we really sell a bit our product, but we sell ourselves. But as entrepreneur, I think you face it really, really a lot more, and your limit, productivity, everything. So yeah, I just think that it's interesting that no, like the part of the intuition, this is where I think it comes in, that I think it's important that we tap into. I think there is a lot of advice also what career you should take. For example, it's true that if you tell someone that has an ordinary like 9 to 5 job that they love, good for them, but you tell them everything you do, they're gonna like wonder what you're doing, you know. So I think what I want to say with the confidence is that the GPS, we would just take another road, you know, if there is block on the road. But when it's coming to entrepreneurship and something isn't working, or I don't know, about a book or something, the difference is that we make it mean something about ourselves, you know, that something else, like I did not sell this, for example, it's hard, I don't know, to market, so maybe I'm not doing it right, but on the road it's not really us, it's something else. But when it comes to confidence, it's also being stuck. I don't think there's any problem as to like being stuck, but it's what we make it mean. It's gonna be forever like this. Something must be wrong. Everybody has it figured out but me. I'm always like this. And actually, when you think about it, it is really like the snake, you know, we are turning in a circle, not because of the circumstances making zero, I don't know what's happening, but because of thinking those thoughts, and it's fueling it, we are cultivating, and it's when we're not aware, we can just, you know, swim in it. So this is always what I'm saying. For me, confidence in like a sentence is do not believe your brain, because our brain's job is to keep us alive. It's not to make us happy.
Yeah,
you know,
it's
so.
to keep us safe, and it's a liar. I get it.
Exactly.
Now, I want to talk. You mentioned when you were 24, you had the limiting belief. What can I do? What do I know as a life coach? Let's talk about limiting beliefs. And I will say, I think I first heard the word, I was probably 28. And I will admit, my mentor caught me. I rolled my eyes and said, "Oh, here we go."
Agree.
Turns out that was a limiting belief. So, what are some limiting beliefs you're hearing from entrepreneurs? And I guess there's probably an infinite number, but what are the most common ones that our brothers and sisters in the trenches of entrepreneurialism are tripping on? And, you know, what lies are we believing?
It's funny you mentioned this, because I started really coaching entrepreneurs lately, which maybe 20-30% of my people. And it's been fascinating because I can see myself, you know, in their struggles, but then you see at it in a complete different, like I see it's just their brain, but when it's you're already swimming in it. But when I see others, I think one of, and it's one that, you know, we talked about the universe and everything, that it would be great to surrender and let go. It's really, I think, measuring the results in our business or anything we're doing, any creative thing that we're doing, we measure it with our worth. So we believe that if it's not exactly where we want it to be, or if we're not making the money, it means something really about ourselves. And it's always the same thoughts, I think, coming up, such as I'm never going to get there. Again, I believe the same, but in a different context. Something must be wrong with me. Other people have it figured out. It's going to take a lot of time. Like all of these thoughts that are actually just thoughts, you know, that I think the brain is thinking, you're going to die. Just stop where you are. I think these are, but I agree with you, the word, even today, limiting belief, I'm a bit rolling my eyes, like people use it everywhere and nowhere, you know, so I agree with you. As much as I know, and it's talking to me, we understand what it means, but yeah, I think it's these thoughts really, but it's coming down to our worth, I think, really like measuring productive, you know, I had a good day, so I'm a good person, you know, like I did a lot of things, I'm good, you know, but when you did not do everything on your to-do list, you are bad, you know, you're a bad entrepreneur.
I'm bad, you know, and that's, you want to see a dog curl up in a ball, just say bad dog. And, you know, we do that to ourselves. And I think the one thing that I had to learn and that fascinated me was the only enemy that can truly ever defeat me is the annoying guy looking back at me in the mirror in the morning saying, you can't. And he's right 100% of the time, if I believe him.
It's true. It's like Henry Ford, no, who said, no matter if you can, or if you think you can, or if you think you cannot, you're right. But at the same time, this is terrible, because when you think you can't, you're afraid that it's going to be forever like this. So it's a tricky. But that being said, just wanted to come back to, you know, you asked if we should start taking action or like the mindset. And I can see that sometimes when you and me, when you are into coaching and you like to read about journaling and all of this, you can also, in the entrepreneur world the most, you can also use it to avoid taking action, because it's scary to, put yourself out there, connect people. What if people don't, nobody comments your post on LinkedIn, or like nobody's answering to your friend request? This is the Facebook. I'm old, I'm a millennial, so I'm like Facebook. But I think, yeah, it's really like being careful not to use it to not take action, because we are afraid that the brain is going to avoid at all costs,
Well, and it's funny because a lot of entrepreneurs I know, using the Colby assessment, they're high quick start. And equally, I know a lot of entrepreneurs who are high fact finder. And it's funny because on the high fact finder, they'll procrastinate by doing more research, or they'll ask more questions. I'm one of those high quick start, and maybe I could learn to procrastinate a little, because sometimes I jump out of the airplane and it's like, oh, I probably should build myself a parachute now.
It's so funny to me. It seems, because I'm always starting slowly, taking my word. So I'm the opposite. So I envy people like you. I understand, but I do think that then you can take a step back and realize. But to me, I like the idea that action leads to clarity. For sure, you can and let yourself. Yeah, there is something that I love sharing, and I wish somebody would have tell me this today. For people that want to be entrepreneur and thrive and have the life that they want, let's look at an area of our life that we think is like perfect. Like there's nothing 10 out of 10, even 15 out of 10. And I like to say, for example, my friends or my family, I love them and I think I'm in touch, I'm doing my best, but I'm not overthinking it. I'm not thinking, it's not calculated, strategized. And so I'm like, but this is the result that I get. And I believe I hope I'm like, we are fun people around. I will tell you a little secret. We don't have kids, and my husband likes to invite people. So one day we have people, one day no, one day all the time people come. So, but it's also, I believe we get a bit, we talked about God, the universe. I think we get a bit what we, believe on a certain level, not what we want, but who we are. And I don't think about it. It's normal, it's natural. So this is my reality. But for the business, if we have the sort of like, it's taking time, something must be wrong with me, I do believe that somehow, no matter what we do, we're gonna get the energy a bit that we're putting out there, if that makes sense. So an area of our life that works really well, I'm wondering what we're thinking. I think, for example, it's fine. Yeah, I don't need to take care of it, and it's fine in results. Yeah, does it make sense? You understand?
It makes perfect. I'm actually just thinking out loud, and what I heard in that was, I see people, they have a 90-day social media plan and they craft their posts, and I'm spontaneous. I show up, I wake up in the morning, there's a voice in my head that says, you got to write about this. And I just share what I actually am thinking. And I think that's, look at areas of your life that are effortless and fun and think, okay, what am I doing there? I'm guessing your husband doesn't have a calendar and looks at it and goes, oh, sorry, you're going to have to wait till June 13th.
Exactly. The word effortless is everything. Also, I think I'm maybe opposite to a few people you already talked to, or like I listen to. But to me, I don't think we have to, to hustle, I believe the medal of honor of being busy. Most of the time you will call me, I'm not doing anything. I'm not saying I'm bored. It's just I think we lost it a bit. We don't have, to be busy. You can also have a very successful life. You just have to be a bit organized. And if you enjoy doing a lot of things, it's different. But I don't believe we have to hustle. Look, for the friends, you should ask my friends to make sure that it's true, everything I'm saying. But I do believe it doesn't have to be, so like a struggle, and people think you need to sacrifice stuff, I think that maybe something else is possible, but it depends what we believe. If this is what we believe, this is what we will create. Again, but we are surrounded by people that says like through blood, sweat, and tears, and I'm always saying, I wish not. I don't want to do this.
There's a book, I can't remember, Damon something. He was on Shark Tank, and he wrote a book called Rise and Grind, and I'm like, I love you, Damon, but no.
That I was going to give them as an example. I love this show so much, but they're always saying, I was sitting on the floor in my basement. I just want to, I just want to, everybody that is listening, if it resonates with them, if they like the grind, good for them. But I just want to say that something else is possible. I want to be the example also when you talked about the fun. as being the fun confidence genie.
Yeah.
I know that some people may say it's not serious, but they are not my people. Like I think it's very, very serious not to take your life so seriously. I believe it will impact like big time. So I understand what you're saying. And they always sit, and then there's a sad music, in the Shark Tank, and they're saying, I also ate only Chinese noodles, and like, and I can also eat a good meal and make a lot of money, So.
Well, and honestly, again, it comes back to beliefs. If you believe that entrepreneurialism is the hustle culture, and by the way, I used to, in my 40s, I was all about hustle culture. And, it was like, oh, I've worked, 100 hours this week. How many hours did you work? And it's like, wow, that was life wasted. My greatest moments now, I'll be sitting there staring out the window, and my wife will be like, I thought you said you were going to do some work. And I'm like, I am. But, it was funny because I was always doing, and I forgot that we're human beings and we should be sitting here being. But the big aha for me was when I'm doing, I'm thinking about what other people want. I'm trying to, it's urgent and you're always busy. I never once stopped and thought about, what does Jeff want to do? Why does Jeff want to do this? And this year I actually, and this whole podcast came out of this, I'm not here to tell anyone what it means to them to be an entrepreneur. I'm just here to say, here's a bunch of fun people that I enjoyed having conversations with. We had a laugh, and maybe there's something in this that's valuable to you.
Yeah.
And
I love it. Yeah, sorry.
I was just going to say, you mentioned that clarity leads to action. A lot of people start with action hoping for clarity. And I think it is a cycle. You talked about the snake eating its own tail. Sometimes you need to just take a step just so that you're going somewhere. However, I think it's important that always you have the confidence, who you are. Because if you don't know who you are, how do you know how to show up in the world?
But you know what? You just put the finger on something that I found also fascinating when, people ask a lot on what they're doing, what they want to change. For example, losing weight. I think this is the easiest example possible. It doesn't matter really what the person is doing if they keep on having the same thoughts, such as, this sounds delicious. Oh, I have to eat this. So what I'm saying is that this is where also we hear a lot from the same example, people losing lots of weight, but they are still the person with a lot of overweight. I don't know how to use the right semantics today. So it's just interesting and it's coming back to you taking action and to entrepreneur when people asking exactly what you said, how, what am I supposed to do? What's my action? I like to say for actually anything we want to change in our life or entrepreneur to start or to continue, is not really in what we are doing, but it's in who we are being. Because the moment that you are, for example, a 100K earner per year, I don't know, it doesn't really matter what you're doing, it's who you are. So obviously you're going to take certain action, as we said, you're going to have some road, but I believe really this is how we got a bit, a bit spiritual here, but for God and universe, I think this is how we get aligned to what then reality will match our who we are. And I think I like the example of parents. Funny that I'm not a parent myself, but I think I believe most of them switch when they have the kid, which happen in a few hours, a few days. Suddenly they become a parent, and probably they do different action, I believe, than when they were without the kid. So I just find it fascinating how, to me, for entrepreneur, this is what which make decision making also very easy, and you can use it for any area of your life. I ask myself, okay, today, from the vision, I know you mentioned also visions in your podcast description, can talk about this. I love talking about this with people. And I ask myself, okay, if I am my future self, I'm traveling, I'm learning American Sign Language. So I'm coaching also people that are hard of hearing or deaf. This is what I'm doing. I work this amount of hours per day. Just to imagine it doesn't have to be very specific. Then who am I? What am I doing? And it makes decision making again so easy, because you won't see that person that you actually don't really want to see because you don't have so much time. You don't care if this person is saying this because you know who you are. If it makes sense.
Well, and to me, it comes down to identity, because, and I'm fascinated. I am not an alcoholic. I am fascinated by Alcoholics Anonymous because they have successes in a field. When you're dealing with addiction, that is a really powerful model for change. And the big thing, and this is what fascinates me in the 12 steps, and yes, I've read all of the books I can find on Alcoholics Anonymous, but the 12 steps are about embracing the higher power, because you will never get sober, get clean, whatever it is, you will never make the change until it's about more than just you. It always has to be about something bigger. And then I love the concept of making amends, because by making amends, you're addressing your inner demons that led to the behaviors. But then at the end of it, they reshape the identity from I drink to I'm a recovering alcoholic. Like it's a reminder. And I think it's fascinating that people, and when I was in my 20s, it was like, okay, I'm going to be an accountant. So I put on this accountant persona, and good God, it was an ill-fitting suit. It suffocated me because, I was told once, you have too much personality for accounting. And I went, thank you. Oh, it wasn't a compliment.
I love it. This is so funny. It's a good story.
But when it comes to, when you're working with people, let's talk about your process. Because I think, again, I've been to some life coaches. I'm not kidding. I actually had one. She was a friend, and she said, I need to practice. Do you mind if we do a session together? And she broke down in tears because she had to become a life coach because it was the only thing she could do. She just got divorced. She just got fired. And at the end of it, I was like, wow, I'm more depressed than ever. And so I've experienced the negative side of coaching. Let's talk about what because I feel like yours is going to be some fun. Is that fair?
Yes. There is one side also that I like. I believe that, we are really like just energy. All of our body and everything is energy. But I try, and I hope after these 34 minutes, you feel this way. But I'm just, trying to have this aura, like to have good thoughts, to think good thoughts as much as possible. My brain is still looking very actively for negative thoughts, for danger. But I just think, that we can make from what you said before, so to share, to connect with people, and to share energy, light-hearted attitude. This is what also I want to share with people. And I do believe that some people around us are not exactly these sunshines, so I try to be one of those. But then I like I love, personal development, inspiration, and all of this. But I like really to use tool that people can, and they do one session, maybe they do, I don't know, a month, and then they can just do it on their own. And sometimes I'm a bit thinking, why people have coaches or like therapists and psychologists for like 3 years? Like, I'm wondering, are you sure? Like, I want to do this on my own, So I like to use this tool, which is called the self-coaching model, and it is based on cognitive behavioral therapy. And it states in the big lines, that you have circumstances on the top, which are facts that you and me, everybody would agree on, like your age, the city you live in, somebody status. What somebody has said. So like using a comma, or using my word, quotes. And then you have actually our thoughts about those circumstances. So you take just one, and this is why it's so different. For example, dating life. Some people will have amazing thoughts about, and some people will not like it. So it's just interesting to see. Then from thoughts you generate emotion. You just keep it simple. Like one circumstance usually generate one thought that create one emotion, and then this emotion drives this action or non-action. For going to the gym, for example, when we don't want to go to the gym, it's because we have an emotion of dread, or I don't know, tired, and then basically what is interesting is that all of this creates a result in our life, and the result very often, 99%, is a reflection of what we're thinking. So when we think, like, I don't know, he said that, or I don't know, something from a circumstance, we usually find more proof for it. Our brain is so smart, so it's going to just look for proof for everything we believe. So just to say in a nutshell, I just like to keep it like something practical that people can live and use, and practice, because it is a practice I mentioned before. I find it all of this work simple. I believe it's being more aware. But the brain is so tricky that it's like highways. It's going to drive on the same highways. And it's not easy, but when you practice and you have fun and get coaches like you and me and just talk to people, I do believe it's making a change, But it doesn't have to be hard, as we said, or complicated. I believe in simplicity. It's one of my most important values, I think, simplicity.
I love it. And it's just sometimes seeing that there's another possibility. Like, you mentioned with an entrepreneur, something doesn't go our way. We go, oh, I'm a bad person. We go straight to our default. And, I think that's the thing. We have these defaults that we don't even think about. Years and years ago in his teachings, Tony Robbins talked about scratching the record, and because we get in that groove and we just keep playing the same song over and over.
Yeah, and I think there is a part that is not talked enough, and it's not written, like, on a paper for me to talk with people about. But I think there is a big part of when we talk about confidence, it's about compassion, self, like forgiveness. There is a belief that's a bit again woo-woo, but I say this to myself often when I have a thought, even a thought like I'm stuck or something wrong with me. I learned it from my coach, money coach, that is I forgive myself for buying into the misbelief that, then you say the misbelief like that I'm stuck. The truth is, and then you can correct it. And it's more sending love to these thoughts. They are not right or wrong thoughts. It's just some of them are less serving us, like more or less serving us, And you mentioned Tony Robbins. I like how he said that the question that the quality of our life depends on the quality of the questions that we're asking ourselves. Yeah. Which is, I think, the same of the thoughts. We need to have high quality thoughts, I believe, to keep on going. But without blaming ourselves for the negative ones, but just to find compassion. I think this is so important, to forgive our past, like what choices we made or something. I don't know, just to even yesterday, that we did not. People think that you need sometimes to beat yourself up, to motivate yourself. I believe the opposite is true. Yes. I think that we can, set goals from a place of abundance. We don't need to. It's optional, I think. Yeah. To beat ourselves up.
Well, my two favorite words. You said you like sympathy or simplicity. Sorry, not sympathy. Simplicity.
I don't.
Two of my favorite words. One is yet, and the other is why. And so when I don't get a result I want, I used to go, oh, I failed. Now I say, I haven't succeeded yet. And then I'll say, why haven't I succeeded yet? And I've been told why is a terrible question, but I haven't met a hole I couldn't dig out of with the word why.
Yeah, I think why is great, but it is true that why I haven't succeeded, it's your brain again is so smart that it is going to offer you answers. It depends how you feel. This is when you tap into the intuition. If then you feel like and you want to do something else, I think it's a sign that it's maybe not the best out of every question you can find. But then I would try to then for me it's more like playful creative. If we're talking about this now, I don't want to to try to change your mind on this, but just to ask, okay, what else could be possible, and let yourself be guided. As you said, the GPS style. Okay, this was just actually the GPS makes it so less personal. No, this road was just blocked. Yeah. There was an accident, and then.
Yeah, I love that. And it's funny because my wife gets really mad at the GPS, and she personalizes and said, why is she sending me this way? And I'm like, you're the adult in the car. And I want to stress this. You're the adult. You decide where you're going. Now, if GPS tells you the bridge is out and you decide to drive off the broken bridge, that's on you. But if it says, you need to take a detour, sometimes you need to look at it and say, what can I learn from this detour?
For sure. Like next time not to take it, for example. Yeah. But then I think to keep it super light again and say, this didn't work. It's like if you do a webinar or you publish a podcast and it looks like people are not replying. Okay. And it's just part of it's just a little, how do you say, like, a stepping stone, and it doesn't matter. And you mentioned vision. I don't know if you were talking about this, but I was curious, what's your vision? Like, I like to get inspired by people's vision. If you have one, or you don't have to.
I have a big vision, and for the record, people tell me I'm crazy, and I say thank you. I literally believe, and I truly mean this, I believe that the more we get to know each other, the more we build relationships in business, naturally we build abundance in the world. So my big picture vision is I would like to be part of the solution where we retire the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. So I'm naive enough to believe humanity can find solutions to famine, to plague, to war. We're not going to stop death, but at least we can end death that we cause. And I think a lot of death is pointless, it's needless, it's really takes us away from who we're meant to be. But genuinely, I believe that as human beings, if we can connect with each other, we can get to know each other, we can break down a lot of those barriers to peace. So I genuinely believe world peace is possible. And the irony is it's about abundance and it's about love. If you believe in war is the only way to things to be, I can tell you right away, you've got a scarcity mindset because I'm taking from you so that I have something and now you don't have it. And then you're going to want to take it back. Whereas if we stop blowing each other up, then we could look at how can we find ways to add value to each other so that we both get what we want.
Yeah, I really agree. And I think it is the ripple effect. I like to think I do what is in my control. I decide every day, people choose their clothes every day. I choose what I'm thinking every day. I'm trying as much as possible to cultivate these thoughts. I agree with you to be, as we said, like to just bring joy. And I believe, it's enough. I think what we're thinking also, just because I read this book right now, but he's talking a lot about the energy behind everything we're thinking, because everything around us was first created by something that somebody was thinking randomly. Then they tried and everything. But I'm like, what if this is possible? So I agree with you with the scarcity mindset is crazy also, because when you go out there and everybody means well, but you hear there's not enough time, there's not enough money, everything is expensive. And then I also read in another book that I love how he said, but look how sunsets are so beautiful. Look how the sea is, like all of the things that when you start looking at what the animals look so different, the fruits, people may say something that they are all created by, science, but I mean, they all look different, beautiful with, kiwis and strawberries. And if you really start to cultivate more thoughts as to why this is amazing, I think first, I agree the ripple effect will be huge, but we're just going to feel much better, I think all of us. And I hope then it will impact, as you said, peace, other things. But actually, we do have to no, I think everything is delusional. People that think they are stuck, it's also delusional. It's made out of thin air. Because of a circumstance, they get to a conclusion. We may choose something else, for the from the same circle. And I have to say, everything is delusional. I believe so.
I love that. And, a friend of mine says we live in, it's like the Matrix. We all live in a simulation. And the problem is when we assume my simulation is identical to yours, when the reality is we see things, we're all blinded by our own lies that we tell ourselves. Now, I could talk to you all day. You are fun.
Thank you.
I assume people watching this, if they've made it this far, they're like, oh my God, I like Tamara. I want to get to know her. Where can they go to learn more about you?
Yes, thank you for offering this. And I think we had fun. We connected, and I like to ask about your vision, because sometimes people just talk to me about their vacation. So I just want to hear something else also, and the vacation too. So you mentioned LinkedIn in the description of your podcast, so I'll make sure to spread the love. But people can find me on, if we are connected, like through you and me. And it's as you pronounce it. Probably you're going to write it down because I cannot even pronounce my last name myself, but it's Tamara Pflug on LinkedIn, the Fun and Confidence Genie. This is in parentheses. And I'm also on Instagram, Fun and Confidence Coach, Tamara. But and I have a website, Personal Development Zone, that I started in 2017, exactly like, you start, you don't know what's happening, but SEO is working not too bad because you started at some point. But so anyway, this is where people can find. But I think LinkedIn, since this is how we met, I will continue to spread the love from the place we found each other.
I love it. And I genuinely say this, connect with Tamara. She's hilarious and fun. Now I'm going to ask you one last question, and you can take this wherever you want. If you could go back and whisper in the ear of 24-year-old Tamara, what advice would you give her? What do you wish she knew then that you now know?
That it's a funny question, because my first reaction was to change, obviously, what I would tell myself, so then I would have a different path. But I do believe that we're exactly where we're supposed to be. Maybe we had something to learn. So I would say, honestly, to just keep on going, minus the beating yourself up. But I would not change anything, because I do believe actually to, be at peace with what happened. So, yeah.
I love that. And that is a great answer, by the way, because I think, a lot of people would give big life advice. For me, I would just say laugh more,
Yeah, okay, good. This is even better.
Well,
Like,
somebody once told me it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. And I'm like, shut up. I'm making good time. And I'm like, wait a minute. If life is the journey, the ultimate destination is death.
yeah.
Maybe I'm not in a rush. I don't want the straight through. I'm going to take the detours.
No, but what I have to say about this, just last thing, is that I do believe somebody told me this one day also for things that you achieve, in your life, just to know that probably the energy that you are taking action from, all the time, and then you get there, it's not going to suddenly change. We all know we reached a point and then we're not. So, I mean, like nothing has changed. So I just like to think it is true to make the journey fun until we achieve. And the last caveat, I hope there's no time limit, just to share, because I love this analogy, I always forget it, comparison more than analogy, is the newborn. They don't do anything, they basically cry and everything, and they are so valuable and important. So you don't have to achieve anything. We don't have, maybe entrepreneur is what you're doing, just to help people, connect people. What if it doesn't have to say anything about who we are, just for the fun of the journey, because it is a roller coaster. But then think about, we are just grown-up newborns, because we are that valuable, and they honestly did not do anything. They maybe look cuter, I have to say, but we are just newborns. We are just that valuable and that important.
Well, and just embracing the world with that curiosity, right?
Exactly.
Well, it was a blast, Tamara. Thank you for being a guest on my show. I will have you back, I promise.
Thank you so much for having me. Go, Jeff.